Tipping is a process by which you can actually rotate a particular object on different pivots. A good example is this little cube. Let me select the controller, an attribute here called as tip. That's tipping in the front and tipping in the back. Tipping in the front and tipping in the back. When it tips in the front, the object is rotating at a pivot sitting over here. When it tips in the back, it is rotating at a pivot sitting over here. So that is front, back. Also, you can have side tipping, which means side, 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 side. So that is what tipping is. Think of it as the box getting tipped off, literally. And this is what we are going to learn how to do in this particular tutorial. To make tipping happen for something like this little cube, I start out with a very simple setup. I've got cube underscore geo, which is parented to cube underscore control, like so. I want you guys to go ahead and do this all the way in the end. Tipping ideally should be done all the way in the end when you guys are done setting your prop up completely. And remember that tipping will be good for objects which have a sort of asymmetrical base, like a square or a rectangle, a hexagon, or a circle. But if it was a triangle, then you would not be using tipping for implementing tipping for that particular model. So here's what I'm starting out with. Now remember that this model is to rotate on 4 different pivots, and I'm going to do that by creating 4 different locators. To create a locator, click on Create Locator, and that basically brings up this little crosshair, which just about defines a point in space. That's all that a locator does. So let me go ahead and position this locator here. This is going to be my first point of tipping, my front tip, if you will. And duplicate it, move it in the back, duplicate it, move this one to the left, duplicate it, move it to the right. And in doing that, I have 4 different points of pivot as locators. Let's go ahead and rename these. Front lock, back lock, side 1 lock, side 2 lock. Okay, freeze transformations on all these locators, and you could delete history on it. Next up, let's quickly arrange these locators in a sort of a tree. But to do that, I'm going to take side 2, drop it in side 1, take side 1, drop it in back, take back and drop it in front, and that way I've got sort of this tree of locators where front lock is the parent of back lock, is the parent of side 1 lock, is the parent of side 2 lock. And then finally drop my front locator into my cube control, so everything is nicely arranged inside of the root controller, like so. Okay, what's going to happen next is going to pretty much finish our rig functionally. What I want you to do is I want you to select everything that there is inside of cube control. In this particular case, I have cube underscore geo. In your case, you might have 3 different groups, a joint group and a geo group and a control group. Everything very neatly arranged right here inside of cube control, and now along with front underscore lock. So what I want you to do is select everything inside of the cube control except for the locators. And I want you to demote this all the way back into side 2 lock. So you're literally moving everything that there is from cube underscore control into side 2 underscore lock. And that basically means that I can now select one of the locators and rotate it. That's my front tipping, my back tipping right over here, side 1 tipping, sit over here, and side 2 is going to be over here. Functionally, this rig is ready to go, but it's not quite ready for me to call it finished overall because I don't want my animators selecting locators and rotating to make the object tilt. The only thing that the animator should have control over is, or the only thing the animator should be able to select is controllers. So I'm going to select this controller and I'm going to add two custom attributes. The first one is going to be called it's called a tip. Let's give it a minimum value and a maximum value. So when my tip goes from 0 to 10, I want my object to tip in the front direction. When it goes from 0 to -10, I want it to tip in the back direction. And then another attribute called as side. When my side goes from 0 to 10, I want my object to tip in the side 1 direction. When it goes from 0 to -10, I want it to tip in the opposite direction. So let's say OK. And I've got these going. Now remember, what I want is for these custom attributes to control the rotation of these locators. I'm going to make that happen through something called a set driven key, which you guys already know of. Driver is going to be the controller, which hosts the tipping attributes, and the locators are going to be the driven. Now front locator means that I'm controlling rotate X. So here's what I'm going to do. When my tipping is set to 0, my rotate X of my front locator should also be set to 0. Key it. When my tip now changes to +10, I want it to tip completely in the forward direction, which means I'm going to rotate him all the way to 90 degrees. You see, all the way to 90, like that. Key it. Close it. Now you see that as my tip goes from 0 to 10, it's tipping in the forward direction, which is fantastic. Let me go ahead and do the back as well. So zero that out maybe. Oh. Load driver, load driven. Tip again, as it goes from 0 to -10, is going to control rotate X of my back locator. Key it. My tip goes to -10. This guy is going to tip all the way in the back, which is -90. Key it, close it, and I want you to see how the front tipping works now. And you see that the object is actually rotating on two different pivots. I'm going to quickly make this happen for side 1 and side 2 as well. So here comes set driven key, side 1, and this time side is going to be controlling rotate Z. When side goes to +10, there you go. Key it, zero this out. I'm going to load side 2 in as my driven. When side goes to -10, remember this guy is going to tip to -90. Key and close. So now I should be able to tip it in the side direction, zero it out, or I could tip it in the front direction. That's good. And it works. Now the only thing that needs to be fixed is the fact that we have these locators, and I don't want these locators to show. You cannot select and simply hide the locator, because in doing so you're going to hide everything that's sitting inside of it, including your cube geo, which I do not want. So it's very simple. To get rid of the locators, just click display shapes and then hide the locator shapes. That's lock shapes. Just hide those. Display shapes uncheck, and although you have locators which are visible, the shapes of the locators which are selectable are pretty much hidden. So there you go. That is tipping, and make sure you do it all the way in the end.